Hello everyone, Kleeful here, and we interrupt the regularly planned Impresario video with a shorter, more TLDR video that I wanted to get out as quick as possible. I've wanted to do so as Xiao's come out, and he's a really interesting case, and I want to go out and dispel any good or trash status that might have otherwise unfortunately befallen on him from other content creators or people with unintentionally biased views on the matter. As such, we're going to hop right in to the topic at hand. The first question, is Xiao any good? The answer is generally yes, he's pretty good. Though he's an odd one and feels a lot like an amalgamation of Klee, Razor, and Kaching put together. However, there is a little bit more to him than just that. Xiao falls into the already well-known role of a Type A pivot, otherwise commonly known as a selfish carry or selfish main DPS, very much like Klee and Razor. This is mainly due to his damage, like Razor, being heavily gated behind his elemental burst, and, like both Klee and Razor, swapping off of him cancels the burst. In terms of power level, he is theoretically capable of matching Diluc's DPS in a Diluc Vape comp. However, he has 3 or 4 issues of varying degrees that, once combined together, makes it really hard for me to fully recommend him as a unit to players just looking for someone good. I'll cover those as I get to them in the coming minutes. From Kaching, he inherits a mobility benefiting elemental skill. It is incredibly snappy and feels great. However, it does lack a manual aim, and its fixed distance does mean it does feel a little bit more restrictive over Kaching's. From Razor, he inherited a similar elemental burst, and this is the first of 4 issues. Both Razor and our resident edgelord have ultimates that heavily boost their DPS of their normal talent, albeit in a different manner for both of them. Xiao has also, unfortunately, inherited Razor's uncanny tendency to eat shit. Razor has this issue due to a blindingly large purple pupper blocking your view, on top of a want to jump a lot to cancel his animations, and a general longer animation time. Xiao has a similar issue, where the extra effects on his attacks can both be distracting and blinding of enemy animations. He also has issues with not small vulnerability periods within his kit, wanting to constantly plunge attack. As such, it is a lot more common for the average player to not notice or otherwise suffer or receive otherwise avoidable hits. Xiao's issue is less significant than Razor's, but he also comes with innate HP drain on his ultimate, which can compound the issue. Now for a little resident pyro ball of destruction, Xiao has inherited a semblance of combo complexity. Like Klee, though to a lesser extent, he has a selection of move combination strings with cancels that enable him to hit as high a DPS output as he can. This is the second potential issue he has, although it is a minimal issue at best and more a good to know thing. Also, like Klee, they do require the player to have a knowledge and capability to execute all of them to make the most of what he is capable of, though, also like Klee, you can play him brain dead Unga Bunga and do fairly well. Just you start to lose out in DPS to the Unga Bunga Bonk King himself, Diluc. He does have a few combos specifically you need to keep track of. These combos are his normal 1 cancel, his normal 3 cancel, his jump E plunge combo, his heavy plunge spam, and his charge heavy plunge spam combo. I'm not going to go over their specifics in this current video, as you can find them elsewhere, like in my Discord or the Kaching Mains Discord. However, if you do want me to make a short follow-up video on the particular combos and nuances of his movesets, do let me know in the comments down below. Now Xiao has 2 more issues, innate with himself. One is caused really by the other, and that other one is what really brings a hamper on him. It is his largest issue. Xiao's largest issue is also his simplest one. His elemental skill does not generate energy while he's in his elemental burst. This is explicitly a problem, as he can only generate energy from dying enemies or energy generation from other allies through the use of turrets. And he has a 70 cost energy ult. This one simple fact means that unless you hit the ridiculous DPS threshold you need to hit in Abyss to fund his ultimate by killing things, kinda funny when you think about it, him being the Adepti known for slaughter, but because of this, he has issues with his ultimate uptime. This is the issue that really keeps him back in the possible power table, where you wind up spending too much time out of the ultimate as a selfish type A pivot to put out the DPS required to make him match up to Klee and Diluc, which he is capable of, although he still can keep up with a superconducting Razor fairly well. The second, lesser issue that springs from this is that you need to build a team comp around him to feed him energy, which is an issue as you're stuck bringing a Gene, Venti, or Sucrose to feed him. A C1 Sucrose with R5 sac frags is the best singular battery for him, but even then, without a sizable influx of additional energy from elsewhere, it's not sustainable without either way too much energy recharge, or at an absolute minimum, either approximately 6 seconds of downtime between each ultimate, or a ridiculously high DPS threshold. Given that Xiao is a type A pivot, this doesn't necessarily seem to be that big of an issue at first. However, it A, requires him to cost a lot more potentially than others of his ilk, and B, is a heavily limiting factor when you realize he is a type A pivot that is incredibly selfish and is running double animo. This heavily limits what additional units he can bring in his party in order to bring additional damage to bear while he's on the field. These are the 4 issues he has. The ease of taking much more damage than is otherwise reasonable, the skill requirement to properly time it and execute the current and possible future tech to make the most out of him, though this one is less important than the rest. And then compounding these two are the energy issues he has, which are to such an extent that it can heavily limit his max potential. Or, if you then instead build a team around him so that you can possibly feed him, using animo, turrets, and others of their ilk, you typically fall short on the overall team DPS side, again falling down below teams that typically use Klee, Diluc, or Ganyu, and potentially even Razor, depending on your ultimate uptime, as a lot of the turrets that can benefit him also benefit well on those other teams. Now on the plus side, Xiao is extremely fun to play, in my honest opinion, and even with his energy issues, he's not a bad unit by any stretch of the imagination, so long as you don't expect him to be a drag and drop Ganyu or Vape Diluc without any effort, because unfortunately he's not. However, due to those previous aforementioned issues, I just can't in my right mind fully, wholeheartedly recommend people pull for him, as he's a 5-star, and since he's a 5-star, that can potentially cost them money, and potentially quite a lot of money. And as such, because of those issues, I'm going to have to say he's not personally worth it unless you either A, really like him as a character, B, find him very, very fun, or C, happen to have a really, really well-geared 4 pieces of artifacts in order to give him the DPS threshold he requires. But at the end of the day, he is still a 5-star, and not a bad 5-star, unlike previous ones who might have launched in weaker states. It's just, do know that there are issues you might be getting yourself into when you pull for him, and if you think you're getting a simple slot in and Dragoon go brrrt, everything's dead, it's potentially not as simple as that. Do note that if you are a whale, C6 is quite possibly the highest DPS ceiling in the game, and this is including the existence of C6 Ganyu. At this point, you are a whale, and since you probably have not only much higher than average DPS stats on your artifacts, but you also have a very high DPS boost from your constellations, this alone helps solve a lot of his energy issues, as it just forms a positive feedback loop of killing more things means more energy recharge, which means he kills more things. Now, I do apologize for the shortness and lack of math in this video, but I felt I heavily had a duty to cover what issues Xiao has, so I could stop people from potentially putting themselves into a unit that they might have thought is stronger than he currently is, or didn't have the issues that he does. Given the probably common rhetoric of videos that will be coming out about how amazing free-to-play damage he is, and that you can use only Gene or only Sucrose plus a healer and be perfectly fine and adequate when they have a level 80 Xiao with a level 80 or 90 weapon, and their crit stats are like 80% crit chance, 180% crit damage. Free-to-play my ass, but I haven't really gone looking for those kinds of videos, so I don't even know if they actually do exist. Who knows, maybe they don't. Anyway, if you liked the videos, do make sure to do the normal jazz, you know, hit the subscribe button, ding the bell, you know the drill. I'd like to say a little bit more, but I'm currently off to finish the crit video, which probably would have been finished by now if I didn't have to deal with his Xiao launch and make this video. This is Kleeful Frames, and I thank you very much for watching.